I hear people always talk about leadership, right? The Jaguars actually do have good leaders. What they don't have is a lot of winning that magnifies those leaders. We'll talk about that here today on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That's right. It is your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars, and we thank you for making us your first listen. I am Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast that you can find wherever you get your podcasts. Just make sure you tap into that location so you do not miss an episode. Whether you watch or listen, we'll be there each and every day for you. Shout out to the everydayers for joining us here every single day. We appreciate you very much. If it's your first time here, hopefully you'll enjoy the show and you'll come back. All right, here's where we're going to end up talking about the young leaders of this football team, guys that haven't been here long enough or been here at all enough to really be considered leaders, going to be thrust into some leadership roles. Oluokun is already here, and guess what that means? That means that he needs to have his leadership magnified a little bit, and we'll talk about that, of course, because I do believe he is a good enough leader at that position. So we'll make sure that we go over that to get him the recognition that he deserves. And we'll start it off by talking about one of the great leaders on the team, especially on the defense, and that is Joshua Hines-Allen. I think he's a great leader. I just think that sometimes he's the forgotten man. He got a big contract a couple of years ago, $120-some-odd million, with almost, I think, $80 million of it guaranteed. And Josh Hines-Allen was paid handsomely after coming off of a 17-sack season. And then all of a sudden, people just kind of forgot about him. Feels like that. He's had 2 years where he's had those double-digit sacks, and then the 1 year where he was banged up a lot. But then the other 2 years where he did get a whole bunch of sacks, but he was one of the top in the league with pressures. I just think that when you go back and look at the great leaders, when you hear people talk about the great leaders, especially on defense in Jaguars history, one of the names that comes up a lot is Calais Campbell. And Calais was here for 3 years, maybe 4? I know he was here in 16, 17. No, he wasn't here in 16. His first year was 17, 18, 19. But he's considered one of the greatest leaders in franchise history, along with guys like Paul Posluszny and Telvin Smith. So when you think about it, the great defensive leaders, Donovan Darius, when you think about it, they're the guys that people always associate with when you talk about leadership on defense. But there's something else that associates those guys with your memory, and that is those are the people that led the team to the playoffs. So I don't think they became better leaders, if you will. I don't think they became better leaders when they won. I think they were already really, really good leaders, and winning kind of magnified that a little bit, and they kind of let everyone else see who they were as people and who they were as players. So I don't think the Jaguars have to wait until they start winning for people to recognize leadership and excellence on the team, and that's what I'm doing today. I think Josh Hines-Allen will get more credit for being a leader when the team has sustained success. We kind of thought they were headed in that way after 2021 with back-to-back appearances, 2022 and 2023. And then in 2024, they took a big step back from having more wins than losses. In 2023, they actually won 9 games, but it just didn't feel, because the expectations were so high, it just didn't feel like they achieved anything. It felt like they actually had failed, right? Winning 9 games the year before, they were 8-8 going into week 17, and people were saying, well, it would suck to lose to the Titans and not make the playoffs, but even if they don't make it, this team has done way more than we expected them to. They actually won the game. It was an ugly game, and they actually won it. And then they won a playoff game after that. It ended up 10-9 on the season when you add in the playoffs. One game better. Just one game better than they were the following year, but the expectations were so high that it seemed like a failure. And when it seemed like a failure, the players that are considered the leaders of the team seems like they failed right along with it. This is why Josh probably didn't get his contract extension until the offseason because of all of that turmoil. And Trent Baalke had this thing that he wasn't giving away contracts either during the season. You saw that ended last year with Walker Little, and that's because I think Trent was fighting for his life, right? He was fighting for his job. So sometimes the leadership doesn't get recognized because of other people's foolishness and things that other people have going on. And the leadership definitely isn't going to get recognized when you're not winning. In fact, you'll get blamed a lot for it. And Josh Allen has took his share of criticism, even from me. I didn't criticize him much last year, probably because he singled me out and called me over to talk to him. And I hadn't necessarily beat up on him in the press, but I did get a little bit a better perspective of what type of person he is. And the fact that he never took any of that stuff that I said personally. And he said it. He told me, he said, yeah, I see some tough stuff, man, but we got to win more. We'll deserve it. He's something of that nature. And it really told me that's a real mature guy. And maybe I don't need to beat up on him so much because I think there's more to it. I think there's more to his play and more to the lack of statistics, unless he needs those statistics, like in a contract year. I really do believe there's more to him than we know. I can tell you this, that year he had 17 sacks, he played hurt. And when you find out stuff like that from talking to people, then you realize the football character that the dude had. He played hurt. He played his lights out for his family. He might tell you that he didn't play as well that year than he did the years that he didn't have as many sacks, but it's just that we pay so much attention to those sacks that we don't pay attention to the other thing, like pressures, right? And he is known as one of the top 4 pressure guys in the National Football League. I'm going to look up right now on Pro Football Reference, the 2024 advanced statistics, if you will, the advanced defense, right? And see where Josh Hines Allen kind of lines up when it comes to being put on notice for his advanced statistic. I know Devin Lloyd is on here before any Jaguar. It looks like a bunch of linebackers, to be honest, on this Pro Football Reference one. So I can go to another. I could try to go to another one and find out exactly where Josh Allen ranks. Okay, here's one right here. I'll tell you right now. Well, Michael Parsons is number 1. Trey Hendrickson, guys like that. Jonathan Grenard. Trayvon Walker is 12th on the advanced stats, like games played, solo tackles, assists, tackles, sacks, all of that stuff. He's pretty high up on the list. And if I could find Josh Allen here, I love doing this stuff live because it either makes you tell the truth or makes you tell a lie. Okay, so he's not like in the top 25 here, but they do have Trayvon Walker, like I said. He's listed 12th. And he's right between Myles Garrett and Nick Bosa, too. So maybe that'll help when people wonder and they start talking about, well, Trayvon Walker, it's kind of like a bust or kind of, that's crazy. But yeah, Josh Allen, man, he's one of those dudes like every single year, even though he may not be as high in terms of stats and sacks, right? These quarterback pressures, man, actually do mean a whole bunch. When I get those stats up, I'll make sure I pull them up. But I do think the only thing that has kept Josh Allen and somebody else I'll mention here in just a second from being recognized as a better leader outside of Jacksonville are those stat numbers and the fact that the Jaguars have not won enough. So when we get to the wins, maybe that will change. I'll talk more about him and Oluokun, who I also believe does not get the credit that he deserves, and I'll do it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, now today's show is sponsored and brought to you by the Skylight Calendar. Say goodbye to sticky notes, scribbled plans on the fridge, and overlapping calendar invites. The Skylight Calendar is here to bring clarity to the chaos and help families stay organized without the stress. This sleek digital display syncs with your existing calendars, Google, Apple, Outlook, and more, making it simple to track appointments, practices, dinners, and reminders all in one easy to see place. Now, for me, I could have used this when I was cutting hair, man, because I had different schedules that I had to abide by, and they were all crisscrossing all kinds of ways. Right now, Skylight is offering for our listeners $30 off their first 15-inch calendars by going to skylightcal.com/NFL. Go to skylightcal.com/NFL for $30 off your 15-inch calendar. That's Skylight Cal, SKYLIGHTCAL.com/NFL. All right, rolling along here on Locked On Jaguars, where it is your team every day, talking about leadership. My man Josh Hines Allen does not get the credit that he deserves, in my opinion, because the Jacksonville Jaguars have not won enough. The Jacksonville Jaguars, in my opinion, also have allowed their lack of winning historically to really cause some other great players not to be getting the credit that they deserve. And that's my opinion. Fred Taylor and Jimmy Smith should both be in the Hall of Fame along with offensive tackle Tony Boselli, but he's not. And the reason why they're not, I think it has a lot to do with the lack of wins by the team. Now, last year, Josh Hines Allen had 8 sacks, right? 8 sacks. But he had a boatload of pressures. At one point, I know he was top 5 in the league, so I can't really find the stats right now. But I just can't find it. But the thing is he is still ranked as one of the best pass rushers in the league. I just don't think he gets the credit he needs to get because the team hasn't won. Okay, here it is. Since the 2022 season, that's the last 3 years, Hines Allen has the 5th best pressure rate during that span out of any defensive lineman in the National Football League. That's a lot, man. And that's a large sample size. That's not just in a contract year. That's an awful lot for him not to get the notice and the recognition that I believe he deserves to get. 8 sacks is still 8 sacks. It's not 17 like he had the year before, but you can see it. Trayvon gets double-digit sacks, and people still talk crap about him. And I just showed y'all he's 12th on the list for total defense with the advanced stats and the advanced metrics. So it says that he's doing a lot of good, considering that they were being swapped out last year like hockey players. Okay, on defense, those guys were able to put up those numbers. And people will say numbers are mumbers, whatever. Those numbers aren't leading to, like numbers don't tell the whole story. They're not leading to wins. Well, that's not their fault. It's not the fault of the dudes that are actually putting up decent numbers, especially when you look at the advanced metrics. It's the fact that they just couldn't win. They just didn't win enough. Trayvon got more credit when he had 4.5 sacks because they won and went to the playoffs that year. And people acknowledge that obviously dirty work must be getting done, but now they assume dirty work isn't getting done by these two guys because they're putting up numbers, but the team isn't winning, and that is flat out not true. I'm telling you, man, winning cures a lot of stuff, and people think winning is just all about, well, saying that you won. No, winning also changes the perspective and the way we view people and the way we view these athletes. This is why I love the broad approach as opposed to in the past, I think too many teams, not just the Jacksonville Jaguars, but there are just too many teams that pigeonhole themselves because they only give themselves one way in order for them to be able to be successful. Sometimes that means putting it all on the players. Just keep it simple. I think that's what Doug Peterson tried to do. Keep it simple and just put it all on the players. But the thing is you can do that. You shouldn't do it, but you can probably do that with a higher degree of success if the players that you're putting all of the onus on are really, really good and complimentary. And if your coaches actually understand what he has on the team. And I think that there's been too much of a disconnect in the past. I think Doug was too soft from a personnel standpoint because Doug had been in a situation where getting along was more important. It seemed like he didn't get along up in Philly. They jettisoned him. They apparently were right because they've been back to the Super Bowl twice in those 7 years that he was gone, and they won one, right? He probably should have stood up for himself a little bit more with Trent. Because I do believe that although Doug didn't do a great job, I think more of this was because of Trent Baalke than it was anything else. But that's neither here nor there. The reason why I bring up the past is it kind of makes you appreciate the present, right? They got the great kind of leadership they also need from the quarterback position, which is the Mike linebacker, Oluokun. Oluokun has been a tackling machine the last 5 years, right? He has been one of the surest tacklers in the National Football League, right? He's also a great leader. I did have one person tell me, I don't think Oluokun is as good as people think he is, you know. He kind of makes some people just kind of believe that he gets a lot of stats, but they can't really point out to me and tell me exactly what it is they don't like about him, right? I haven't seen him miss a whole lot of tackles, right? I haven't seen, number 23 out here running behind people. All I see him doing is making tackles. I like what he said. We talked to him earlier this year, and he was just like, before Oluokun approaches this thing, like they're always looking to get rid of him. And I can't blame him for being that way. But he looks at it like, even now that he's got a big contract, this is a second contract, the second big one he has, he looks at this thing like he never takes it for granted. He never takes it for granted. And it's ironic that I'm talking about them being taken for granted, guys like him and Josh Hines-Allen being taken for granted. I think Trayvon Walker's a good leader too. I just think he's a leader. He's more of a leader by example and a quiet person. One of the things that I really like about Josh is the way Josh speaks about his teammates. And then something I think he learned from Calais Campbell. Josh Allen is the dude that has guys staying after practice now voluntarily for just that extra 10, 12, 15 minutes of work. I've seen him do it. Calais used to do that. And when Calais did it, Josh Allen was one of the people who was standing there watching him. So you learn, each one teach one type deal. I'm going to name some more guys that are leaders on this team. And yeah, I'm not going too far past the quarterback. We'll talk about the offense in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, Locked On Jaguars here on a Monday as we forge through the offseason. The Jaguars are running around on the field again this weekend. But it was everybody, right? Everybody was there. And this week, the veterans are back. The activity is ongoing. I saw Travis Hunter throwing the ball at one of the NFL rookie doohickeys that they have every single year. Look good in that teal and white, man. I'm telling you, he really, really does look good. Speaking of him, he's one of those young guys that I'm interested to see his leadership qualities. I think his leadership is going to be less vocal, more about folks, especially the veteran football players, appreciating how hard the young man works, appreciating how he loves the game, appreciating that he has $40 million in guarantees, and I don't know how much from Adidas that he's already making. And he probably is one that's showing up and practicing and working and looking like an undrafted free agent. And I think for somebody that talented to be that humble and to actually look like he's having more fun when he's at work than when he's off of work, I think that's going to set right with a lot of those veterans, offensively and defensively, especially when he doesn't get tired. Okay. So he'll naturally be a leader. I don't think it'll be extremely vocal. It'll be more or less how he goes about his business play after play in the professional way that he moves around. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be a leader too. And that's because leaders aren't assigned. It kind of happens on its own. Like I watch a lot of National Geographic and I compare a lot of stuff to animals. And I know that gets on one person's nerve. He's a real smart person too. He hates when I do that. He's like, oh man, you comparing us to animals. But I will tell you this. The pride is the leader of the pride of lions is decided by who's the strongest and who's the best and the bravest. They're lazy as hell, though. You know, the lady lions are the ones that do all the hunting. But when there's a hyena that has to get his back cracked or something, you know who the leader is because the big dog's going to come around the corner and take care of it. So that's kind of like Brian Thomas Jr., the big cat. Brian Thomas Jr. is kind of, yeah, he's the leader. You're going to see why he's the leader because ain't nothing you're going to be able to do to stop him. That's why. Okay. Now, the assigned leader of the offense is Trevor Lawrence. Because he's the quarterback, because he makes a bunch of money, he's the coach on the field on the offense. He touches the ball every single play, him in the center, on offense, whether it's a run or a pass. But he is a bit of an assigned leader, and he's an assigned leader because I don't think he's done enough where everybody's going to follow him. They're going to follow him because he does work hard, because they do believe in his talent, but it's almost assigned right now as opposed to where it just kind of happens naturally by itself. Part of it is the position. Part of it is because we have seen the talent. That's why anybody watching the Jaguars will tell you that we believe that Trevor has been talked about unfairly, especially in the national media. And the reason why we believe that, well, is because we watch guys drop balls. Even the dude in Tennessee, Calvin Ridley, who's making $90 million, we saw him probably have more drops than anybody we've ever seen around here in one season. Right? Talk about dodging a bullet. What if Calvin Ridley was still on his team and Brian Thomas Jr. What if you had Terry and Arnold and Calvin Ridley? No, nobody would be bellyaching about Travis Hunter then, would they? No. So shout out to Trent Baalke for having something go right that he had no intention of having go right, by the way. But yeah, I do believe the quarterback is naturally going to be assigned the leadership position. I don't think it's wrong. And I don't think Trevor's done anything where the team feels like, or the fans should feel like that, okay, we need to strip him of that. No, it's just that they put a lot on him from the day that he got drafted. I'm not just talking about the billboards. I'm talking about when he first got here, how he had to be put in front of that microphone all the time until one time I heard he refused to do it. And it was about the running back situation, I believe. I think that's what the running back coach, something like that. I think it was that day. But Trevor was like, man, I ain't doing that today. You know, always trying to roll him out there like he was some press secretary, putting them all up in people's business. Fortunately, most of the people that did that kind of stuff are gone. They're not there anymore. But yeah, it's been a little bit of assigned leadership right now. I do think he should still have the captain on his jersey. I think he should still be the leader of the team because no one has ever, so I did have one person that questioned his work ethic, but Tony Baselli, the EVP, has been right there the whole time. And I think if Trevor had a work ethic issue, we'd know it. We'd know it. I think it was the opinion of somebody who got fired that they thought Trevor should be doing more. Turns out he probably did. He just didn't want to do it with you. And you're gone now, so good riddance. But other leaders on this team, Tyson Campbell has been kind of thought of as a quiet leader. I think now that Jordan Lewis is here, even though he doesn't make as much money as Tyson Campbell, I think George Lewis is the dude who's going to be considered. Jordan Lewis is going to be the dude that's going to be considered the leader of the secondary. And you know who else is the leader? Y'all can talk that crap all you want to, but Dewey Wingard, man. Dewey Wingard, people like Dewey. I heard the new staff likes Dewey a lot. And even people that didn't like Dewey before kind of came around. He was having a real good camp last year too. And then he just got banged up. But he's a difference maker, not only on special teams, but he's a difference maker just in the locker room period. He's one of the good sound bites you can get, man. When the team wins or loses, he's always there and ready and willing to be honest and talk about how sick of the environment he was around. I think Dewey was the one that was absolutely sick of that staff. I don't know who it was. I wish I knew who got under his skin enough to make Dewey talk the way he was talking, but Andrew Wingard had about enough of that BS. I'm telling you. I think on the offensive line, you're probably going to see Pat McCarry take that leadership role for the Jaguars. One, he's a Swiss Army knife. He plays every position on the line, but right now, I think he's their best offensive lineman until otherwise proven. That's where the leadership is going to come from. So I just gave you a whole bunch of leadership council stuff. I also believe Eric Armstead, man of the year, I can't leave that out, is also a leader on and off the field. We just want to see him do more on the field, and I think moving him back to his natural position is really, really going to help him. Make sure you check out Locked On NFL Scouting with two of the best in the business, man, Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino, right here on our network, man. They break it down and make you a real smart football fan. And you'll know more about your own roster and any roster in the National Football League by being smarter on Locked On NFL Scouting. Make sure you check that out. Make it your second listen wherever you get your podcast. I got bit by a yellow fly yesterday, man, and I don't know if y'all see my camera shaking or hear me, but I've been sitting here using my foot to scratch my other leg. It feels like I got bit by a shark. Yellow flies are the true terrorists of the insect world. You guys take care of each other. Make sure y'all check me out again tomorrow here on Locked On Jaguars. We'll talk to you later. Thanks.